Hello everyone, this video is a part of our course Entrepreneurial Management and Leadership. Here today we're gonna look at entrepreneurship from a perspective of the individual. Here in this first video we're gonna go through what it is like to start a company, and then in a second another video we're gonna have a look into what it means to be a leader of an entrepreneurial company. These videos are going to be quite short. We're not going to go through the things in detail. Instead, that's what you can do in your assignment. There you have links to further material that you can have a look into, and there you get useful new information about these topics as well. Before we start, I want to remind you that all the slides that you will see here on the screen, you can also find in Optima. I'm aware of the fact that sometimes the text might be a bit too small, difficult to read, but as I said, check out in Optima, there you will find all the slides that you need. But let's get going with this topic, starting up a business. The question we want to answer here is, how do you become an entrepreneur? How do you start your business? Where should you start from? Is it difficult? What do you need to take into consideration? But let's start with the question, how do you become a business owner? Well, the very traditional thing, the first thing perhaps that comes into your mind is that you start a company, you register the company. And in that case, there's quite a lot of things you have to take into consideration. You have to think about the legal form of the company, what is suitable for you. You need to register the company, also consider, for example, taxation and all those things. I won't go through them here in detail. As I said, check out the links that I have given you in your assignment. There you will learn more about that. This is very typical. This is the most common way of starting a business. Another option, sometimes a very good option, is franchising. Franchising basically means licensing. Typical franchising companies, just to give examples, McDonald's, Subway, Kotipizza, these are all very familiar to you. When you have a franchising company, it means that through licensing you get a lot of ready material. You get the know-how, you get the business concept, you get the business model. But on the other hand, the rules might be quite strict. There's not a lot of freedom to decide yourself how you want to do it, what you want to do. Instead, the company owning the license can decide how you should do it, what your company should look like, what your service should be like, and so on. But in some cases, this is a very good option. A third option is to buy the whole of a company. Actually, in Finland, for the moment, and in many other European countries as well, we have a situation where a lot of entrepreneurs are about to retire in the coming few years. This means that they need to decide what to do with their company. So there's quite a lot of companies for sale right now. Sometimes this is a good option, sometimes not, but I think there's more potential in this that we perhaps understand. Because if you buy a company, an already existing company, you get a customer base, you probably get the help from the former entrepreneur and owner, you get a model to start from, so you don't have to start really from scratch. So this is also an option worth taking into consideration. If you don't want to buy the whole company, you might want to buy just part of the company, just one function of the company. This can be the case, for example, if you are working for a company with several different functions or departments, and the company wants to outsource part of the activities. Then you, for example, as an employee, you can buy just part of the company and you continue working pretty much for the same company, but not as an employee anymore, but you're working out of your own business. This happens all now and then. It's quite common and it works if you get a good deal and a good cooperation with the company. This is also a very good option. The fifth option that I have mentioned here is to establish a spin-off company. This has happened, for example, here in Centria. We have quite a lot of R&D projects going on, and in some projects we have developed new products, new models that we can see here's a very good business potential. But we, as an educational institution, we don't really have an interest to start a company and really start from scratch and do business in that sense. So it has happened that one or two of our employees have said that, okay, we would like to start a business based on this new innovation that we've done in a project, for example. And then we can make a deal with them, decide, for example, intellectual property rights, what belongs to Centria, what can we sell, how much know-how can we give them, how much help can we give them. This is what we call a spin-off. There are probably other ways of becoming an entrepreneur, a business owner, ways that I have forgotten or haven't listed here. As long as you're fine and you're satisfied with the option, it's a good way, I would say. But take or have in mind when you're about to start your company that there are other options than just register a new company. And let's also have a look at other things that you probably will want to consider. First of all, it's very, very important that you do some kind of market research. You have to evaluate and test your idea. You can never tell for sure, is this going to work or not, but you do need to do the market research because you probably have a lot of thoughts and ideas and you think it works one way, but when you really start to look into it, it might not be the way that you thought it would be. So it's really worth putting both time and effort into doing the market research. You will also want to decide about the legal structure of your company. I will not go through details here, what the options are, because that is part of your assignment. You can have a look at different kind of legal structures of companies in Finland and what the law says about different structures, what the pros and cons are. But you need to register your company and you also need to register with the tax authorities. You will need some sort of business plan. This is something I will come to soon. It might be just a short plan or it can be a more detailed plan, but you need some sort of business plan. Moreover, you need to have a budget. You need to look at your finances and you have to figure out how much money you will need. And please keep in mind that in many, many cases, the amount of money that you actually will need is bigger than what you thought in the first place. Because it's not enough to have money to register the company and to keep it going for the first month or two. You need to consider also your bills that you will get, the flow of money in your company. Will you have enough money to pay the bills? You will also need a salary. So how much income do you need per month in order to be able to pay yourself a salary, for example? You will need good cooperation partners. You will need a good team and a good network. Maybe you start the company together with somebody else, then you have a partner or a team already. Maybe you start the company alone, but in any case, you will need to cooperate with other people, other companies. So it's a good idea to look into your networks and look at what kind of contacts you already have and what kind of contacts you need to build. Part of this is finding the right distribution channels, because no matter if you're selling services or physical products, you need a way to distribute your products. Will it be through internet, which is a very common option nowadays, or will you have a more traditional store? Will you find new ways that nobody else have thought about yet? But somehow you need to get the product from your company to the customers. How is that gonna happen? Very often it comes down to marketing and communication. selling, selling, selling. And this is something I would say Finnish entrepreneurs have a tendency to forget. We tend to be very focused on the product. We tend to be focused on product development. And we somehow imagine that a good product or a good service will sell itself. But no, it won't. You need to find your customers, you need to listen to your customers, and you need to sell. You need to make phone calls, you need to book appointments. And also, when talking to the customers, when discussing with the customers, you will probably get a lot of new ideas for how to develop your product or service. So these are some things that is good to have in mind when you are about to start a company. I will also point out at this stage that there will be challenges. You need to have risk management in the process, risk assessment. What are the risks in your business? I have listed some potential risks that you can have here, or challenges, whatever term you want to use for them. But first of all, not in all cases, but in many cases, you have to consider the financing. Do you have enough savings, or do you need bank loan, or do you want to borrow money from somebody else? Where will you get the money, and how much money will you need? Is it possible to get the amount of money that you will need? In Finland, we have a very good support system for this. You can not easily get a bank loan, but it is possible. You can get different kind of financial support when you're about to start your company. More information on this you will find online, but remember, of course, that it's a limited amount of money that you will get for free. You will have to take some risk as well. Another challenge in the beginning can be the lack of expertise and experience. If you haven't done this before, you don't know where to look for the information, you don't know what kind of information you need. Good suggestion here is to talk to other entrepreneurs, other people who have been through the same process. You can learn from them and gain from their knowledge and their expertise. You also need knowledge about legislation, taxation, how you set up contracts, all the legal issues. There is help that you can get. You can get quite a lot of help for free, but just remember that these are things that you have to look into and have to consider. Familiarity with Finnish business culture, maybe for some of you, might be a challenge. If you're not born in Finland, if you have not been living in Finland for a very long time, you don't know exactly how things work in Finland. This is something you will learn while the process goes on, while you do your business. But in the beginning, this might be a challenge that you have to face. One challenge that pretty much all entrepreneurs come across at some point is the problem with time management. And this, I think, is true not only for entrepreneurs, but all kind of leaders and managers nowadays, that you have to find a balance between, for example, working, studying, or if you have a family, a spouse, you're starting up a business, how are you going to do that balancing? How are you going to make sure you're not working 24/7, but you also get to have some free times? This is just examples of what kind of challenges you might have to face, and I hope they will not make you scared of starting a business. This is not the reason why I bring them up here, but just to make sure that you have a realistic plan. Talking of plan, let's move on to business plan. I have put some links later on where you will get more information about the business plan and what it is and why you need such a plan. Typically, or maybe 5-10 years back, a business plan used to be quite detailed. It used to contain many pages and a lot of information about your company and your future plans. In many cases, it turned out that the reality was not like the plan at all. It doesn't mean that you don't need a plan. I claim that you still need some sort of business plan, but it doesn't necessarily have to be very, very detailed. This varies from case to case, so there is no right or wrong answer to the question, what should a business plan look like? But it's very likely that at some point you will need a business plan. Somebody will ask for your business plan. And what a business plan is basically a plan or document where you describe your business idea and how you plan to implement this idea. You should go through features of the product, or you should go through your market. Where are the customers? How big is the market? What kind of competition? And so on. A good business plan should also give an idea about the profitability of the company. Of course, if you're starting up a new company, it might be difficult to tell in the beginning how big is the profit going to be for the first year, or is it actually going to be a loss in the first year. But try to make some kind of prediction, at least, to make sure that you know yourself how much income you need to have, how much costs will you have for the coming months or for the first year. Here on the next slide, I have listed a bit more in detail what can be included in the business plan. But remember, as I said, there is no right or wrong way of doing this. This is just an example of what it could look like. You will want to start, of course, with telling the name of the company and the legal structure of the company. How many owners are there? Are you the only owner of the company? You will also want to say something about your background, about your expertise, what you've been doing before. And if you have other people working in your business, or if you are several owners of the business, tell about all the people involved, their background and their expertise. This you want to do just to prove that you have the knowledge that it takes to run a business. Normally, you also include something about the future plans of the company, mission, vision. Where do you want to take the company? Where do you want to be in 1 year, in 3 years, maybe in 5 years? I would say 5 years is the maximum because nobody knows what will happen in 10 years. But where do you intend to be in 1 year or in 5 years? You will also want to include something about your products and services. What is it that you're selling? Where are the customers? How big is the market? How easily can you reach the customers? What do they value? How do they make their decisions? And so on. Very important, should not be forgotten, the competitors and your competitive advantage. There are always competitors. Sometimes you read a business plan where it says that there are hardly no competition in this field. That means that probably you have a very bad business idea, because if it would be a good idea, there would be some kind of competition. And it's very important that you are aware of them and that you are able to explain why your service or your product is better. What is your competitive advantage? Why are you better than the competitors? And here, finally on the list, something about the money issues. The budget, financial administration, accounting. How are you going to handle that? Are you going to do the accounting yourself, for example? Or is it something that you can outsource somebody else to do? Do you have a financial understanding? Do you know how much income you need? Do you know where the costs come from? Do you know the yearly budget for your company? All these are important things, but very difficult because especially in the startup phase, you don't have the correct answers and you never have a perfect final plan. remember that it's always okay to do adjustments to the plan, to add something, to take away something, and so on. It's also important to remember why you are doing this plan. Who needs a business plan? Well, there are several answers to that question. First of all, you need a plan, because a business plan is a very good way of structuring your own thoughts. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it happened to me sometimes that when you have some thoughts and ideas in your head, as long as they are inside your head, they sound very, very good. But for some reason, when you speak out loud, when you talk to somebody else, or if you put them down in text, you suddenly realize that, oh, maybe this is not perfect. I need to work on this part, or this will probably not work. So having a business plan, doing a business plan is a very good tool for you to help you structure your thoughts, plans, and ideas. It's also a very good tool if you're working in a team. If you, for example, start a company together with some other people, friends of yours, and your group of, let's say, 5 people. Because it easily happens that you assume that everybody thinks about the business the same way as you do. You assume that you have a common understanding and agreement of where you're gonna go, how you're gonna get there. But sometimes when you start discussing these issues, you realize that maybe we don't all have exactly the same perception of the situation. So then writing and doing the business plan can be a good way to start the discussion. What do we want to do in our company? How do we want to handle these things? What is important to us and what is not so important? Probably the traditional answer to the question that who needs a business plan would be that you need it because of potential investors and other stakeholders. That is true as well. Still today, in many places, if you go to a bank, if you deal with the Ely Center, or if you apply for money from Business Finland, for Medtekes, they will ask for a business plan. Sometimes they have their own model. Sometimes you're allowed to make the plan according to your own model or the way you want to present your idea. But they will ask for a written plan, something put down in words about your business idea. Here I have an option. If you don't like to write a lot of text, or if you want to somehow visualize your idea before you start writing, Business Model Canvas is a very, very good tool. This has been used for the past maybe 10 years, and it has become quite popular. I will not go through it in detail here. If you go to, for example, Google and you write the words Business Model Canvas, you will get a lot of information. You will also find very, very good videos on YouTube, for example. So there's no point in me going through it here in details. But basically what you do is that you structure up your idea. You look at the value proposition. What is it that you offer your customers? You look at the customers, the channels, the people you're working with, and you also look at how you produce the product or the service. Personally, I think this is a very, very useful tool, and my suggestion would be that if you start working with a business model canvas, use post-it notes. Don't write on the paper, because once you start writing, you realize that, oh, no, this should not be here, or this I want to have a bit slightly different. So it's good to print this out, and then you work with post-it notes that you can change and move from one place to another. But please have a look at this and search for more information about Business Model Canvas. I have also put some links and useful links and more information for you about how to write a business plan and how to use Business Model Canvas. This was just a short introduction. There's a lot more you need to learn. There's a lot more information, useful and interesting information available out there. But for example, when it comes to legal issues, things change. It varies in which country you're starting your business, for example. That's why I chose not to put a lot of detail in this video. Instead, I would just want you to get started with this, and now you can continue working on your assignment and learning more about how to start a business. Thank you very much.